I came across these TikToks about horror movie hot takes, and to my amazement there was quite a few comments where people were crapping on Hereditary, saying it's overhyped, and more alarmingly saying it's not scary. Saying Hereditary isn't scary kinda blows my mind, as I remember this movie being one of the best horrors that I'd seen in quite a few years. Granted, it is a very different horror movie, with a heavy focus on the psychological torment, watching a family struggle to cope with a traumatic death, which in my opinion is expertly weaved into the supernatural elements. I can understand those of you who are wanting a more standard horror experience, where Hereditary might not appeal so much, but I'd very much like to encourage you to give it a second chance. And if you stick with me while I recap the movie, maybe you'll feel differently at the end. And as I'm saying this, I'm open to maybe being wrong. Maybe I'm one of these people who are overhyping it. So together, let's find out the answer to this hot button question. Is Hereditary actually scary? We open with an obituary for the mother of Annie, who's the wife and mother of the family, who I would consider to be the main character, even though the situation they get wrapped up in heavily affects them all. Today is the grandmother's funeral, and Annie's speech immediately lets us know that this woman was shrouded in mystery and involved herself with weird, mysterious people who are in attendance today. Not really seeming that sad about this event, and doing odd things like smiling at the daughter and putting this weird fluid on the grandmother's lips. As we come to learn later, she was part of a cult. Maybe so far this doesn't come across very scary, but you can't deny that it is a bit creepy, and also intriguing to wonder what this death means to the other members of the cult, if they're not sad about it and almost seem to be celebrating it. Back home, we see that Annie is a professional dollhouse maker, or diorama maker, not sure exactly what you'd call this. But it becomes a heavy focus throughout the movie, and I've seen some people suggest that this doesn't really add to the movie. But it is an important element to Annie's character, as it represents her desire to have more structure in her family. When she's making these dioramas, she's in complete control of how it turns out. And as the movie progresses, and she's struggling to cope with the extra strain on their structure, she literally breaks her own models, feeling that all hope is lost. Let's introduce the rest of the unhappy family. Their son Peter comes across as a typical teenager, more interested in socialising with friends than he is with the family. His emotional disconnect with Mother Annie will come into play later on, and despite seeming kind of a standard character, he'll play a very important role by the end. Husband Steve is arguably the actual standard character, but he's a necessary one that most horror movies have, where you need a grounded person to be skeptical of these supernatural happenings. Nah, ghosts aren't real, you're being a goofball. And yeah, I know I just saw something that's clearly supernatural, but there has to be a logical explanation.
Please, I just need you to go and see upstairs. Please, Steve.
The most immediate intrigue for any character has to be for daughter Charlie. She's quirky to the point of being unsettling. She has these strange habits like doing these vocal clicks.
You could always count on her to always have the answer.
That was your opinion, and you were...
And building strange dolls out of scrap. As the film goes on, we'll delve deeper into these characters, as there is a lot more to be discovered. Grandmother Ellen left a seemingly heartwarming message asking Annie to forgive her, but there is a mention of sacrifice for the greater good.
Shut it!
So this message is less heartwarming and more foreboding, implying that Annie might be sacrificed. And you can tell the paranoia that's now playing on her mind, as she thinks she's seeing Ellen in the shadows, when really she's not there. Or is she? The next day at school, Charlie has some weird moments, like this. And then she cuts the bird's head off, while being watched by this creepy woman. Annie explains how Ellen was so manipulative that she felt compelled to cut contact with her for many years, meaning she wasn't around when Peter was born. But eventually Annie caved in and allowed her to be present when Charlie was born, and this is why Charlie was always her favourite grandchild. Annie blames herself for all of this, but she can't quite articulate why. Anyone subject to an abusive relationship will be able to relate.
And then I realize that I am to blame. Or not that I'm to blame, but I am blamed.
Peter gets invited to a party, but Mummy insists on him taking Charlie, as she needs to try and make friends. He was hoping for a chill evening getting high and getting with the girl he fancies, so to keep her distracted, he tells her to go eat some cake. Little did he know, this cake is packed with peanuts, and Charlie's definitely allergic to peanuts.
It's hard to breathe.
He rushes her back home, not thinking to bring an EpiPen with him. And this is when we get into the good stuff that I find to be excellent horror, to the point where me as a grown-ass man was starting to feel the heebie-jeebies. She sticks her head out to get some fresh air at the moment when he swerves to avoid hitting a deer, and an electrical pole takes her head clean off. He sits here for a while in complete shock, unwilling to face up to what he's done or even look back to see what happened. He just drives home and lays in bed awake all night, awaiting the dreaded moment when her body is found. The cut to Charlie's rotting head on the side of the road, while Annie is still wailing in agony, is expert level filmmaking. I need to go check out Ari Aster's other work, although I have heard Bowie's Afraid is terrible. And so begins the family spiral into madness. A mix of anger, paranoia, seeing things that aren't really there, and a looming feeling of collective guilt, creating these extremely vivid dreams. Especially this one, where she tells Peter that she deliberately tried to miscarry while she was pregnant with him, and then while still in her dream, burns him alive. I'm gonna say this a few times, but the acting here is mwah, chef's kiss.
Why did you try to kill me?
I did! I was trying to save you!
Why did you try to kill me?
The family dinner scene is my absolute favourite scene in the whole movie, where we see Annie completely break down, getting fed up of constantly defending and looking out for Peter, when he's still unwilling to own up to what he's done.
Just f***ing say it! Don't you swear at me, you little shit! Don't you ever raise your voice at me! I am your mother! I wish I could shield you from the knowledge that you did what you did, but your sister is dead!
Annie was hoping that out of grief, the family could have finally come together, but due to their issues, they haven't. Now obviously, this isn't a good case sample for me to convince you about this film being scary, but I do think there are horror elements here. Look at Toni Collette's angry face. She's so enraged that she almost looks like a ghoul. And that's not a dig at Toni Collette's looks, because it's down to her acting here. She's really pushing forward her features and looking proper intense. And that to me in a way is kind of scary, just not in a traditional way. A woman from Annie's group therapy sessions excitedly tells her about a seance, which enabled her to see her grandson again. And despite Annie's skepticism, she agrees to take part in one. She completely freaks out when it appears to be legit, and she wants out of there quick. Before she leaves, this lady, whose name is Joan, gives her the instructions if she wants to try it herself.
Read this out loud, every syllable, very carefully. I don't know what language it is. The medium had me read it first.
She seems like a nice, ordinary lady, but then as Annie's walking out, she says this.
You didn't kill her, Annie.
What?
She isn't gone.
Well, what in the hell is that supposed to mean? The rest of the family reluctantly agree to join in, and things get really freaky when Annie's body appears to be taken over by Charlie's spirit.
Why are you scaring me?
Make it stop! Make it stop! Make it stop!
Steve snaps her out of it, and the whole family are an emotional wreck, with poor Peter crying in despair. I can't cover every creepy moment, of course, as it wouldn't be appropriate in the spirit of recapping. But I do want to shout out this scene, where Peter's seeing Charlie in the corner of the room, and we get this amazing effect of her head falling off and turning into a ball. Then he experiences Annie trying to take his head off, which again seems to be just a vivid dream. When Annie goes to speak with Joan again, she's not home, but we can see inside, and we can see that she's a member of the cult. She's placed Peter's photo on some kind of sacrificial table. Back home, Annie discovers that her mum and the cult she was in believed in this demon king called Paimon, whose spirit can be evoked to take over a living male's body. She then finds these photos of her mum taking part in these cultish celebrations. This to me all looks and feels legit. This Paimon entity also has a real wiki page, so I find it very easy to be immersed in the idea that this kind of cult could actually exist. When the spirit takes over Peter's body, he's in the middle of class, appearing to be choked out. Amazing acting from Alex Wolff, along with really decent makeup that really makes it look like he's choking here. Still, this might not be that scary to you visually speaking, but imagine being unable to control your own body, feeling like some dark entity is currently in control and is trying to end your life. Pretty scary stuff, I'd say. Things get heated up, quite literally, when Annie theorises about burning Charlie's book that appears to be targeting Peter and continue to hurt him. But when she tries to burn the book, it ends up burning Steve. Now, if I have to give some slight criticism, I do find this part where Annie's body gets taken over, and while she's possessed, she's climbing all over the walls and clinging onto the ceiling. Despite being visually creepy, it does feel a bit cookie cutter. It's a very standard expectation when it comes to possessions in horror films. The execution here is fine, it does make for a creepy couple of scenes, but it did kind of take me out of the movie a bit. Up until this point, I feel like the movie had its own voice, and this to me was way too reminiscent of other films about possessions. Peter then sees Annie cutting off her own head, and when the other members of the cult give him a naked jump scare, he jumps out the window to end it all. Understandable. But the spirits aren't done with him yet. The ghost of Charlie takes over his body and leads him into the creepy treehouse, where the cultists are all bowing down to this statue. And I love how the music has changed up here, to make this scene ethereal and almost pleasant, rather than feeling horrifying. Immersing you in the mindset of the cultists that what's happening right now is a good thing. And what is happening right now is that Peter's now the vessel for Paimon, one of the kings of Hell.
Hail, Paimon! Hail, Paimon!
God damn, that's unnerving. And this is where the movie ends. Horror movies being tied into the occult and demons isn't exactly treading new ground, but the story surrounding it is excellent. The characters, the emotion, the demonstrations of grief, and genuine feeling of mystery, it's all just so well crafted, with only one count of a jump scare that I felt was kinda forced in. Overall, this movie kept me hooked in, and it's one I would gladly watch again and again, and I hope that me taking you through this has maybe convinced you to watch it yourself, if you were in doubt about giving it a chance. So it's going to come as no surprise that I'm putting my seal on this, and saying that yes, Hereditary is actually scary. If somehow you've not been convinced, but you're still here willing to listen to me, I welcome you to air your criticisms, either of the film or my opinions, down in the comments below. And if you're enjoying the idea of me covering more horror films, be sure to subscribe, because there's a lot more coming. My series recaps are still going to be the main focus, and I can't ever see that changing, but I think it's good to diversify. If you want to know what project is next, these guys on screen are in the know. It's part of their rewards for supporting me on Patreon or by memberships on the channel. I thank all of you here, whether your name's on the board or you're just listening to me now. Come check out this recent popular recap I made, covering all of the Rec films. It's on screen now, get clicking.